on the website. And because it's going to be recorded, please turn off your camera and mute yourself. So the recording has just started. So this is the 5th grade transition night information. One of the disclaimers I'm going to say right away is we have a lot of information to share with you. And one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten is that it is good information and it's been very helpful to families, but it's also been like drinking out of a fire hose is what they've compared it to, because it's just so much information. So I want you to know that please pace yourself. If at any point it's, you're not interested, step away from the computer, or you pause yourself and step away, get a drink of water. Please feel free to take breaks as needed. And all of this information, I will be sharing the whole slide deck with you and also the recording with you. So if you're missing something, if it's too much, it's okay. Get what you can, and then the rest of that, we can always catch up over time. And the other thing I want you to know is that the middle schools will be doing a specific information night with more details about course selection. And so those dates have already been sent to you, most likely through the elementary school emails. And this session, I was asked by parents who were in middle school, they asked me to do a session like this because they said that despite the fact that they understood the elementary school, what happened was when they went to the course selection event, very often for families who never attended school in the United States, it really didn't make much sense to them. They had some gaps of understanding and being able to understand everything that was presented to them because they didn't have some foundational information. So if you attended middle school in the United States, this session might not be for you because this is primarily geared to families who don't really understand what middle school looks like and what the setup is. And so it's to help them get that foundation information. So when they go to the middle school transition night events that each middle school is hosting later on this month and early in February, you have that deeper understanding so that you can better understand that the presentation that the schools will be giving. And so that is primarily the purpose of the event, but just know that all families can benefit from this presentation. So the Issaquah School District's demographics has changed tremendously. I've been working in the school district since 2000, and since 2000, our population went from approximately, in 2000, it was about 85% students that were identified as white, and about 15% students who identified as who had identified as either Asian, Hispanic, American Indian, Alaskan Native. And so over time, we have changed tremendously to the point that we are nearly at 50% that identify as white and 50% that are mixed, such as two or more races, Native Hawaiian, Hispanic, Black, Asian, American Indian. And as our demographics has changed, what we've also seen is that the Issaquah, Newcastle, Bellevue area has approximately 28% of our families were not born in the US, and in Sammamish 32%. And looking at considering those demographics, we've realized that some of the families who are not born in the United States and not attended middle school in the United States, they did not quite understand fully what was entailed or needed, or what the middle school experience was all about. And so sometimes they didn't understand about sports and clubs at middle schools, or they might not have understood about the course selection process and how that system works. And so we wanted to make sure that there were no barriers or any barriers or lack of opportunities for families to access any of the resources and programs offered at the school. So again, I said my name is Lorna Gilmore. I support 3 family partnership liaisons. Ina Gangurdi works at Cougar Mountain and Maywood. So if you have further questions, I'd most likely, and you're at Cougar Mountain and Maywood, I'll most likely refer you to her, connect the 2 of you. I might also be able to answer all the questions, but Liliana works at Issaquah Middle and Pacific Cascade, and Wendy works at Pine Lake and Beaver Lake. And Liliana speaks Spanish, Wenli speaks Chinese, and Ina speaks Hindi and Marathi. And all of our family liaisons are also well versed in using interpreter family language lines and interpreters to support our families. We're part of the equity department, and our main purpose of our jobs is to help remove barriers to accessing information or understanding the school system. And as a group, we host many parent events and workshops, and we have lots of resources on the website to help our families better understand the schools. We also put out a religion and cultural celebrations calendar. So one of the things I'm going to say is the transition from elementary to middle school is a pretty big transition and big change. And as a middle school teacher, so I taught middle school at Issaquah Middle for 15 years. And I remember my students always would be so surprised and sad that they didn't have recess. And, that was a big surprise and change for them. In addition, lunch is now a little bit longer, so that's great. It's 30 minutes. Most of the schools have microwaves. Microwave lines are pretty long. So for the first couple of months, for sure, I wouldn't use the microwave, but that's one of the options that students have, and it's a longer lunch period. Lunch, many schools also have activities. So the schools, you might notice that they have a foosball table, or they allow the kids to go outside and play basketball during the lunchtime. So while they don't have recess, many times the students eat within about a 15-minute span of time. And then the last 10-15 minutes, they usually are playing. At Issaquah Middle, while I was there, kids were constantly outside doing Foursquare. So in that part, it didn't really change from elementary school. So they, especially in 6th grade, those kids really appreciate that time to kind of stretch their leg and move around. So they have that as option during lunch. There's only a 4 or 5 minute transition time between classes. And when you all go to curriculum night and you're walking through the school, some of you might become very scared and hesitant. How is my child going to navigate by themselves from that class to this class, up 2 flights of stairs at some schools that have a multi-level? Will they get lost? Will they be able to get to their locker? And those are all valid concerns. And the first couple weeks, yes, your child might be a little bit late. Yes, your child might take the wrong turn or so, but it's okay. The school has much experience with this, and there's a lot of staff members in the hallways, the teachers, the doors open in the hallways to help your child navigate the school, find their classroom, open their locker, all of that. And over time, it's amazing. Sometimes students arrive to your class within 2 or 3 minutes, and so early. The next one is lockers. All students in 6th grade will be assigned a locker. How often your child uses a locker, that will be completely up to them. In previous years, pre-COVID, the kids were not allowed to carry their backpacks to class, but now in most schools, students are allowed to take their backpacks to the class, mainly because the students carry their laptops with them. I'll talk more about laptops later on, but note that all the students also have and are assigned a locker. One of the big things for middle school is sometimes kids struggle opening the lockers. So I'll talk about it now and also a little bit later on. But one of the things you can start doing to help your child with this transition is buy them a little lock to practice how to open a locker. And I did that with my child also, who's in 9th grade, and it was helpful for her. And then when she started middle school, it was a little bit an easier transition, or she felt more comfortable and confident that she would be able to open her locker quickly while she was there, in transitioning classes. Most often, kids really nowadays use their locker during the lunchtime period, because they usually go to the locker before lunch to pick up their lunch, and then they'll go to their locker after lunch to drop off their lunch bag before they go to the next class. Sometimes they might carry it everywhere with them in their backpacks, but it just depends on how much they're interested in carrying in their backpacks. Books. Most of the books in middle school will be online. The students will be assigned, they'll have access to a book in their biology class, their English class, their world history class. They will probably have a novel in their English language arts class. So they will have books, but nowadays most of the books are online. So many schools sometimes also have a class set of books as needed, so students can keep a set. They don't need to keep sets of home, but some books at home, but most of the books nowadays are online. Class supplies. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. We have a general class list for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you can find that on the school's website. You can even find that as early as the next couple months, definitely by the end of the year. But the website contains a list of general classroom materials for 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. But also note that in the first couple of days of school, each teacher, especially for certain classes, they might need some different materials. And so the teacher will let the students know what is needed. So don't be surprised if the first week of school, you're told that you need a couple items that they might not have. Now that most stuff is done on their computer, on their laptops, students really don't have that many extra materials to get for school. After school clubs and sport opportunities are offered at Issaquah Middle School, and we have 2 different slides later on for that. But that is one of the big differences from elementary to middle school. Rachel?
Thank you. So when middle school, if by the end of elementary school, you're going to notice a pretty big change in your student and their independence, and they're going to feel ready for middle school, and you're going to notice that you feel like they're ready for middle school too. It's really a time of transition for students to become independent learners. There's independence that continues to build throughout high school. But it is kind of a partnership of independence and still dependence on parents for support. So we really encourage like a partnership between you and your student, but having your student kind of take the front role at their school as being an advocate for themselves, and with you helping to support them with those skills. So, if a student has a question or they're having a concern with a friend or a teacher, the best thing you can do at home is for a first action is to help your student take the first step in coaching them in asking any questions they might have. But of course, you'll also have access to contact teachers as well. Sometimes that means sitting down with your student and helping them compose an email, 1 sentence at a time, but having that again come from them directly with your support. They're going to be trained on tools in Office 365 and Canvas, which are some of the tools, electronic tools that we use that we'll talk about a little bit later. But really modeling those skills of how to problem solve, how to ask for what you need, and really just giving that coaching. And the students will receive this as well from their teachers at school, but just know that we are encouraging more of the two-way interaction between students and teachers. And then asking your students some thoughtful questions at the end of the day is a great way to learn about what they're doing at school. But really, middle school is such a transition and building blocks for success in high school. So just really modeling, partnering, and supporting your student and helping them learn those advocacy skills.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Some of you asking great questions in the chat. Just a couple things is most of the lockers have the dial lockers, the 0 to whatever high number it is, and they do turning left, turning right, that kind of a locker. And I can take a couple photos of lockers, and when I send my slide deck to you, I will just share some of the photos of the locker so you can know. But it's basically the lock with the dial is what it is. And one of my last slides also has the dates for all the events that the middle schools will be having the events, and we'll present that soon.
Lorna, I'm gonna add a couple questions that came up for the good of everybody. School clubs and sports opportunities exist at all the schools. Those are generally already posted on the middle school pages. So really, go ahead and access your middle school's website to kind of see what's currently available. They stay pretty similar from year to year, and we'll talk about a little bit more about those later. And then the other question was about school supplies. I know sometimes parents can bulk order these through PTSA in elementary school. Definitely looks different when you get to middle school. Helping your student, really all you need is a couple binders, some notebooks, and some pens and pencils to get started. We've made the mistake of overbuying school supplies in the past. Some teachers will have really specific, black binder for band, or a 2-inch binder for social studies. So Make sure your student has a couple supplies for the first day, like folders, notebooks, pens, and pencils. And then as Lorna talked about, you'll head back to Target or Amazon after the first couple weeks to supplement your supplies, but there's no pre-ordering.
And a little later on, when I visit one of the school's websites, I'll try to look up the class list so you can kind of look at that. And definitely don't buy too many supplies, because when you'll see there are very few. It's not like elementary school where you have to buy plastic bags and antibacterial stuff and all of that, and tissue and Kleenex and blah blah blah. It's not like that at all. It's a very different kind of list. I think it's a lot more minimal. It's very general. And so we'll have a chance to look at some of those. Susie, have I presented this? I probably haven't, right? I lost track of. I'm going to present this right now. Okay, so how middle schools communicate at home. In middle school, very rarely, if ever, will you see handouts and flyers sent home. So for example, some of you might have seen this information as a flyer, and we never really send out flyers in middle school. So it becomes very, very important for you to be checking the weekly newsletters that the school sends. And they will send a newsletter every Thursday, just like you get them in school right now. From your elementary school. So it's Thursdays that you get the school email and bulletin. Now, teachers, very often teachers may post information and they will email you, and they usually will send an email or notification through the Canvas. We'll talk more about Canvas later, so don't worry about it, but they will also share a lot of information about Canvas at curriculum night. But you will note through the course of this presentation that Canvas becomes a big way of communication for teachers and parents. So make sure you've set your Canvas account so that you can check the inbox, or very often though, teachers use Canvas to send out emails to parents, and that is automatic. All parents in that class, because it goes to that entire class, will get that email. So then teachers can send individual notes per class or the different kind of sections of classes they teach. The school's website is critical for parents to be visiting, because they have information on clubs, sports, the bell schedule, the calendar, all announcements for the school. But going to Canvas will be important for you to learn about the classroom information. So it's the club and the classroom information. Unlike elementary school, you will not have one teacher who sends a newsletter for the week with all the information going on. When my child was in 6th grade, there was one teacher who sent a newsletter once a week, but in general, don't expect that all 6 teachers are going to send a newsletter once a week letting you know what's going to happen. I would say I was lucky that my one teacher sent a newsletter, but in general, that's not an expectation. And if you have a question in middle school, you should email the teacher, the primary teacher, where the question is originating. For example, if you have a question in math, you talk to the math teacher. If you have a question in history, with that teacher. So you will be contacting specific teachers. So you will need to keep track of the names of the different teachers and communicate with them. But the good news is that if you go to Canvas, you can actually email the teachers directly, or you can see what their emails addresses and kind of message to them that way, or you can just send them an email through the school, our regular email system. But if you have a bigger question about mental health, or not doing well, or some kind of other issue, the school counselor would be the person you will be communicating, and the key person to contact all the teachers and have a conference set up a conference with all the teachers. Caregivers or parents can contact teachers to discuss the student's progress, and each class will request a meeting. In middle school, there is no such thing as a parent-teacher conference, okay? So there's no official, any kind of conference with the teachers. You can set up that by emailing the teacher and asking. And we will discuss more about questions later on.
Lorna, I know there's some anxiety about this Canvas system. I can feel it from the questions I'm getting. So I just wanted to share. We're going to touch on Canvas in a little bit more detail, and you will get walked through that system coming up. So this is really just like a sampling. So you start knowing like, oh, Canvas, I heard about that before, I should pay attention. So more to come.
Yeah. And you really cannot do much about Canvas now. You can't really do anything till the first 2 days of
There's
school,
nothing you can do.
because
Yeah.
you cannot even set up your account. So please don't worry about it. And note, I do an event on Canvas to help teach parents about Canvas. We'll talk more about that. So I hope that helps alleviate any anxiety that I've caused. Okay,
Oh,
Rachel.
I just want to go back to one thing on
Yes.
that last slide. I can't remember if you said this, so apologize if you did. But you can actually sign up through the district website for emails from the middle school right now. So maybe not like this fall, but as you're kind of well, I guess we're not in fall anymore, but as we get closer and closer to promotion, you might enroll to get those weekly emails from the middle school, as long as the information isn't overwhelming to you, but you can start to get a pulse for what's going on at the school, and that way you're on the communication starting in the summer. So that's an opt-in on the district website.
And I'm also going to put a plug-in for PTSA. So the PTSA, if you join the PTSA, they have a website, and very often it's very helpful because they'll have a Facebook group that really helps keep you informed and lets you know what's going on at the school. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming to keep up with all the things going on at school. And so some of you have asked, what school will my child be attending? So in elementary, from elementary to middle school, we have something known as feeder patterns. So based on the school you're attending, that's going to determine what school your child will be attending the next year. So if your child attends, for example, Sunset Elementary, as my child does, she will be going to Issaquah Middle School. Cougar Ridge students will be going to Cougar Mountain. Issaquah Valley, it's kind of split. Some kids go to Cougar Mountain Middle School. Some will be going to Issaquah Middle School. So for some of the students, if you're not quite sure, please let us know, because we have, it should be in Skyward Family Access, your pattern on where you're going. But if you're not sure, you have two options. One, you can email your school's registrar, your elementary school's registrar, and she will let you know that that your child, what middle school your child will be attending. Or you can email one of the family liaisons, they can let you know, or me, but we'll give you all of that information. But we don't choose. You don't have the ability to choose. Like, my child is supposed to go to Beaver Lake, but nope, I don't want to go to Beaver Lake. I want to go to Pine Lake, so I'm going to go there. This is a feeder pattern, so your child will start getting enrollment and information for course selection for that specific middle school. If you don't mind, I see someone with the hand raised. I'll call out questions at the end. So just, if you could just hold on to that question or put it in chat. So just know that that's what's going to be happening. Rachel, you want to add more about this? Oh, you're muted.
I think you covered it. Were you expecting something different?
No,
me?
I just wanted to
Okay.
also let you know that there are actually attendance maps on the school district website. So if you go to the school website, each of the schools have an attendance map. So if you're not quite sure if your child will be going to Beaver Lake or Pine Lake, for example, you can look at the attendance map and you can kind of see if your child lives, if you look at your address, find your house on this map, and it will tell you. If you're not sure, also, the other person to ask would be transportation. Transportation has all of that information. But honestly, the best place to go to, if you're not sure, is just contacting one of the family partnership liaisons or the school district or the school registrar. Okay. So moving from elementary to the middle school. So again, this is an automatic move. All your paperwork will be transferred. The parent does not have to do any kind of re-registration, no re-enrollment, none of that. What you do have to do is, that's what's coming up at the end of this month. And in February, between the 6th, I believe, and the 28th, you will have to do course selection. So you'll be choosing some of the classes, or you will be choosing all of the classes that your child will be taking next year. And before you choose that, that's what the event at the middle school will be about. It's to give you some background information as to why, and just some more information for course selection. So that's what you will be doing. Transportation. Transportation is, if you're getting transportation, you can go to the transportation website to look for your route information. So you can find your bus route. Now, again, you cannot do this right now. You will have to look for it in August, and you can click on e-link and use your password to find out if there's a bus to your middle school. Some of you who did not have a bus this year, you might find that you have a bus next year for middle school. Some of you who did not have a bus, it might be vice versa, depending on how far you live from the school. So transportation, you'll depending on how far away, you would qualify for transportation. It's verified during EVP, and then they no longer send out any letters or any notes saying that this is your bus route. So it's very important that you click in and log in to find out what your bus route is for next year. Lunch account. Your lunch account balance will carry onto the middle school. I actually find that the middle school lunch, there's a little bit more options for middle school lunch. You will see that in elementary school, there was a specific menu for elementary school lunches, but in middle school, there's a little bit more options for middle school lunches. Middle school lunches also cost a little bit more. Again, just as in elementary school, you can apply for free and reduced lunch meals. The menu is available, all of that stuff is available, and you can also deposit money on My School apps and My School Bucks. You can put money in your lunch account. But they also have lunches. They usually have 2 lunches. They have a la carte, so your kids can sometimes, the additional options can also be hard because they also have the ability to buy sometimes juices and some chips and all of that. So, things to watch out for as your child is going to middle school. There's also a highly capable program option in secondary school, but you will probably have gotten an email if your child is in highly capable about that. And there's a meeting, I believe, later on this month. So if you did not get that email because your child is highly capable, let the liaisons know. But then I saw an email sent out earlier.
Lorna, let me speak to that so you don't create
Yes.
confusion. There is not a separate support or classes for highly capable in middle school. There's no different programming. If your student is in highly capable programming, there'll be a session to help with some direction about how students might do their course selection and how we do support students with highly capable, but there's no separate program at the secondary level.
Yeah, classes are all self-select, and there's one math class that you have to test into, but classes are self-select. If your child has a 504, an IEP, or a health plan, or accommodations, that also will follow your child to the middle school. So for the 504, the counselors in the elementary school meet with the counselors in the middle school to talk about it. With the IEP plan, if your child has an IEP, your IEP case manager will be having a meeting with the middle school case manager to help transition your child so that it's a little, as seamless as possible. But we encourage you, if your child has an IEP, to talk to your case manager and see if there's something specific that you might want to look for or change, or any concerns you have as your child goes to the middle school. That really is part of your IEP review, but you can always ask for a meeting with your IEP case manager to discuss this. And if your child has diabetes, asthma, hearing, vision, any kind of other issues, health needs, please make sure that you check in with the nurse, but that health plan also follows your child to the middle school. So again, this is an automatic transfer. All of this information about your child follows them from elementary school to middle school. The calendar, the district calendar.
So the district calendar is something you're probably already familiar with from the elementary school. They're pretty similar. It's the exact same calendar, so they're not pretty similar, but a couple of things that are different for middle school. As Lorna mentioned before, they're not teacher conference days. So I think those are typically held in December. Those don't exist at the middle school level. Middle school, we'll talk about this later, or maybe on the screen, but it's divided into 3 trimesters. And at the end of each trimester, that's a grading period. and teachers will have a half day to do their grading. So students will come to school in the morning and then they will be provided transportation home in the afternoon. So just know that those exist. I think they are, I'm not sure if they're flagged on here, but when your middle school will have their own calendar on their website. And you're going to want to look for those trimester days and put those on your calendar, because that might be a change for any after childcare plans that you have or activities going on. The calendars are actually posted for the next few years on the district website, so those are good to get familiar with. We do ask for, consistent attendance for your students. We believe that the best way for your student to be successful academically is to be present at school. That said, it comes up a lot, can we pull our students out of school for a trip because, it aligns better for visiting family in a different country. There's processes for that, but we do suggest and ask that you try to work with the district calendar to plan those so that your student can be in school. It's not as impactful in middle school if your student misses a class, but it is definitely, we want to help them have positive school behaviors. Report cards will become available at the end of each trimester, and there's also a mid-trimester grading point where grades are posted, but that doesn't change any scheduling. So, did I miss anything on that?
Not at all. And that's one of the reasons I put the calendar on here, because in middle school, very often, we still have some families who want to take, a month off and go to India or to China, or take a trip and go to a different country. And in middle school, it becomes a lot more impactful for learning because students are responsible for making up all of their work, and teachers really don't put together any packets. Like there are 6 classes, so there's a lot missed, and so that can cause problems in learning. There's no option for the child to go onto the computer and just do online learning while they're gone.
And there's not an expectation for teachers to provide learning while the student is gone. So it really does sometimes add to what students have to take care of. So yes, I think I maybe misstated that earlier, but compared to elementary school, absences in middle school are more impactful. So just the attendance is more critical than it might have felt to you in elementary school.
And currently the school year is the same as an elementary school, where it's divided into trimesters. Every 12 weeks, students will be receiving a report card posted on Family Access. So, and the report card, by the way, looks completely different than in elementary school. These are actual letter grades, and we'll look at that more in a few minutes. So let's look at the schedule. So, Rachel, did you want to talk about, you're going to do the second schedule one. Okay, so the bell schedule. So for this bell schedule, each school will be posting the bell schedule for their classes. So there's a bell schedule posted here, but you can also visit each school's site, let's say Cougar Mountain, and all the websites look the same. And when you go to our school, you will see the bell schedule. In general, most schools start around between 8 and 8:15. Some schools at 8:15, some schools at 8:10, and end between 2:35 to 2:45. But it's important to note the bell schedule so your child is on time. And then note on Wednesday, so this is another big change, it's a delayed start. So most schools start at 10:20, and some maybe 10:10 or 10:15, but look for your bell schedule on the website. This is one of the good ones to just be checking on. On Friday, at the end of the trimester, it's an early dismissal day on all of the Fridays at the end of the trimester. And so that's sometimes very surprising for parents. Don't worry if you forget this, just keep in mind that so you're not surprised when you have a half day sometime on March 17th or something like that. And I'll post the dates soon. The last 2 days of school are also early dismissal days. Student schedule will be available to Family Access the day before school starts. So just like in elementary school, you find out who your teacher is on the Friday before school starts. In middle school, you will be able to log into Family Access on Monday and look at the schedule. I think it's helpful to look at the schedule because then you can also see what room number they are in. And also you can kind of just see what their schedule looks like. The family access also tells you what their schedule looks like. So family access gives some good information. In August, you'll also be able to do a school tour so that you can kind of walk around the school and look and see where the classrooms are, and just helps the students make sure they know how to get from one class to the other. In August, they also do something known as web, where everyone belongs, is what it's called. And the web day at the schools usually is a good way for sixth graders to be more familiar with the school. And then let's see, the lunch period is based on specific grade level or class. Usually all sixth graders have a common lunch. And at least that's what they've been trying to do for the past many years. Most likely we'll keep that, but you will have a lunch period that's built in the class schedule. Sometimes there have been instances where sixth graders might be separated into 2 lunches. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case next year or not. But just lunch period is based on the class. The students are usually taking 4th period. Okay, so it's based on your class schedule, the teacher that you have at that time.
Lorna, there's a question if you could show the sample schedule again, which I think you're showing right now.
Yes. Okay, so this is a sample schedule, and this is for Issaquah Middle School, where you can see first period is a class called homeroom. Then they had second period was PE, then they had science, and they had language arts. Then they had the elective class called principle of flight, social studies, and then math. Okay. Okay, Rachel?
Okay, I'm just answering a question.
Sorry.
1 second. I'll see if I can address it too for the greater good. Okay, so Lorna, you talked about 6 classes a day plus homeroom. It's actually super fun. I think it helps students feel like really mature, that they get to move classrooms. If they have not had the opportunity to maybe be with a friend in their elementary class, they might have a chance of getting, 1 or more classes with someone they're looking forward to. And also they're going to have a chance to meet a broader variety of students. Everybody's coming, middle schools are a compilation of multiple elementary schools. So there's a lot of new friendships that are going to happen as well. Classes are about 50 minutes long. There's transition time in between each of those. And again, there's a lot of grace for managing the schedule in the hallways in the early, at the beginning of the school year. Every school, to my knowledge, has some version of a homeroom built into their day. This is kind of like a landing point for your student at the beginning of the day. There's sometimes SEL lessons that are delivered during that time. Any daily announcements might happen during that time. So that will be a class that they have for the full year. Typically, it's with a teacher that they have for another class in their schedule. There may be exceptions to that, but it's another adult that's a good contact for your student. The one thing that, we get to start building in is a lot of choice in middle school and electives. And as they continue to get older and older, the choices just continue to expand. So in their first year, you're going to hear presentations from your middle schools about what those electives are, but every school has a music program. So they have the choice of either joining band, chorus, or orchestra. And I highly encourage giving it a shot if your student even has an inkling of an interest. I think the music programs are some of the best ways to build some deep connections in middle school. There's some other things, they vary from school to school and what those electives look like, and those are trimester based, but those music programs are year long. Students are going to be required to take 3 trimesters of electives. 2 of those will be PE and 1 of those will be health, and those will be automatically assigned. And you don't have a choice of, when you get to schedule your health class versus your PE class within the school year. And then students who don't pick one of the music programs, like I said, there are trimester electives available, and those are a little bit more unique to the building. But so if you're curious about those, you might look at your middle school's website to see if there's information about the electives, but sometimes those do change from year to year. So it gets fun. And it's, if your student has a hard time sitting all day, the nice thing about middle school is they get to move a lot more.
Yeah, and this is an example of the Pine Lake Middle School bell schedule. And I showed, so you can see what it looked like. So they have, periods 1, 2, 3, then some students had lunch and then went to fourth, other kids had fourth and then went to lunch, and then 5, 6. And who has lunch? Usually on the schedule, it'll tell them if they have an A lunch or a B lunch. And very often, the students will start, especially on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, with a homeroom class. And what is homeroom? It's a class where they do the announcements for the school. It's basically a school business class. They'll do also anything that's going on at the school. Sometimes they'll share something important. They'll do school spirit information. They will do social and emotional learning at that time. Students can use that time to catch up on homework, depending on what's going on in that homeroom class. So that's just kind of to touch base with the whole student body at that time.
I had someone ask me if like the 4 to 5 minutes is realistic for students that have to change classes, go to their locker, go to the bathroom. And I just want to reassure you that yes, it is realistic. They kind of figure out their routine. So your student might not go to their locker between every class. They're going to figure out, they're going to optimize their routes. They're going to find out, when it's easier to take a bathroom break. They'll have a chance during class if they absolutely need to leave the classroom for the restroom. So it works. It just works. They get there. It's part of middle school. There's a lot of grace in 6th grade and a lot of support to help them feel successful.
It is amazing what kids can do in that 4 or 5 minutes. And sometimes I thought it was too long, especially in spring, as things, hormones were raging sometimes. 4 to 5 minutes was too long. I wanted them in the class much faster. But as a 6th grade teacher, honestly, I was a 6th grade teacher for nearly 15 years. And as a 6th grade teacher, the first couple of weeks, the kids are stressed. They are scared. Like there's so much uncertainty. But please note that it does get better. We make sure we help them with finding their classes. We help them with their locker. And every now and then students do go to the wrong class. Every now and then students do go, are late, but we don't mark tardies till the kids are used to the schedule and are familiar with the school and are comfortable getting to class. So all of this is something that we help students with. So I know it sounds scary. It's honestly a lot more scary than it actually is. Once the kids are in play within the first 2 weeks of school, all of this becomes very routine for them. Next one was, what is a non-year-long elective? So they might have some kind of art class, or my daughter had principles of flight in 7th grade. She had done orchestra for the first 2 years, and then she was done with it, and so she changed. If they're in band, orchestra, or choir, it's a little bit harder to change year-long electives. They could probably go from band or orchestra to chorus as an elective. But for band and orchestra, really when you start, they kind of want the kids to stay in those year-long electives. And it is amazing how much they literally teach kids how to play instruments in 6th grade. So it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in middle schools in this area. It's just shocking to go to the concert in December. But that's
huge plug from me on music. Try the music.
Yeah, and
I think
I
think Beaver Lake had like a robotics class, just to kind of throw out some other examples. As students get older, there's yearbook for 8th graders, so that it varies a little bit from building to building.
And I know that at IMS, I had a teacher who was doing a backyard forestry class and, architecture class at one time. And it honestly depends on the teachers, because the teachers create these elective classes. And it's great, even if they're taking, multiple electives a year, it's great because it exposes kids to so many different things that they might be interested, especially if they're really not interested in music. So don't stress out if they're not interested in music. That's one of the beauties about middle school. Kids have so many options. So really it is to help identify the interest for the child. It's really all about the child. So day in the life of a middle schooler. So the school days, you saw the schedule. They're going to start with homeroom, and then they're going to go to all of their classes with the lunch in between. They will move to different classrooms each period. So each period is about 50, 52 minutes, they're going to have different students and classmates in each class. So that's sometimes surprising. And, sometimes that can be scary because they don't have that friend or the set people in that class with them. But it's fine because teachers do a lot of activities to help the kids get to know each other, to meet each other. And that's part of it, right? Because you usually have 2 or 3 different elementary schools coming together. So a lot of the kids don't know each other. So the first few weeks of school, teachers do a lot of activities, team building activities to get the kids to know each other in the classroom. And so they're going to meet a lot of different people and work with a lot of different people through the course of that year. Some class sizes will range anywhere from 24 to 35. 35 is definitely larger, and that's just something new in the district. Core classes stay the same all year. Some teachers, they're going to have the same teacher for math, science, social studies, English language arts, homeroom. And then their music teacher would be the same if they have a music teacher. And then for PE, health, usually that sometimes still, in many of the schools, as far as I know, stays the same, but they might have a different person for health. It depends on how that school is set up. So halfway through the trimester, the kids will update their Canvas grades. We'll talk more about that in a couple slides. So parents are aware of their child's progress. But Skyward grades, but they post their final grade at the end of the trimester in Skyward, and that's the official grade that child receives. Canvas is an important tool used by teachers to communicate with both students and families. And we talked about the trimester being divided, but one of the things to note is on this slide, it talks about the end of the trimester. So you don't need to know this information right now, just know it's on my website when the half days will be next year.
Lorna, there's some, I think triggered some questions. Want to alarm people too much. Again, this is kind of like that Canvas conversation. I know we didn't answer all your questions about how electives work or what they are, how to pick them. This is really just a high level. How does the school day look? So 4 core classes plus the PE health plus an elective. That more details about what the electives are and how to pick them and make those decisions are going to come from your middle school. They do a lot of work making sure you have the information to make those decisions. So this is really a high level. Just know that there will be an elective choice.
Yeah, so what you need to know is that you're going to have the homeroom, you're going to have an English class, and we'll go more into details. But the electives, we really can't talk more about it because it very much depends on each specific middle school. And sometimes the electives change depending on what's happening at that school that year and what kids are interested in. So that's one of the reasons we can't go into details, but that's why you will be going to your specific school's 5th grade course selection information night to get that information. So this is the one that a lot of parents are asking, and that is middle school laptops. So all students in the middle schools are provided with a district issued laptops. And all students are also assigned and given an Office 365 account, which means that they have access to Word, PowerPoint, email, Outlook, and they are assigned a school email address. And that email address can only be used by other people in the district. So they're not going to be getting junk mail. People outside the district will not be able to email them. It's mainly for teachers and staff members to send them an email. They actually already have an email account that has been set up for them in elementary school. Also, the school textbooks, they also have a site, ClassLink, where they will be accessing all of their textbooks. And that site is they'll be accessing it through the Canvas account. The main thing you need to know is they'll be taking their laptops home each night. Just make sure you remind them to keep their laptops fully charged, so they're ready for school the next day.
There's a question about can students use their own laptops? So at school, students are asked to use their school laptop. They have school safety things on there. They have the district software. Teachers know how to support your student on that laptop. They, by all means, do not have their laptop open at all times. But from when they're in school, they should work on their own laptop. There are some extenuating circumstances that might be a different decision. But by and large, while they're at school, they should be using their school laptop. If your student has a laptop at home that they prefer to use, that's okay. The software is on all platforms. My son likes to use a Mac, so he uses that at home, but he does use his school district computer when he's at school.
So a couple questions is that sports is not an elective. Sports are things they take after school. Also, the homeroom, as Rachel said, a sixth grader is going to be assigned a sixth grade teacher. They're going to try to make sure that the homeroom teacher is a teacher they already have in one of the other classes, but just sometimes that's not possible, but they can try. And usually homeroom classes, like other classes, is between 24 to 30 some kids. They usually try to keep the homeroom class a little bit smaller than the regular classrooms. Okay. Canvas. So Canvas is a learning management system used at all the middle schools and the high schools. All course information, grades, syllabus, expectations, everything from the teachers is posted in Canvas. It's a primary way for families to check weekly progress of the student, the weekly grade, the missing assignments, comments from teachers, all of that. Students and family account access is different. The families do not have access to class roster. So you're going to have your own account for Canvas, and your child will have their own account on Canvas, because your child's account is going to allow them to take tests, to do certain assignments, to actually upload their grades into Canvas. So they have special abilities that they are able to do using their student Canvas account than you using the parent Canvas account. Every now and then I hear from some parents that they just use their child's Canvas account, and that's really not acceptable, because now you're accessing student information and their class rosters and so forth. So we highly encourage parents not to do that. That's not what this parent is supposed to be doing. You're welcome to look at the kids' assignments. When my child was in sixth grade, I would sit with her and look at her account and help answer questions and so forth. So that's one thing, if I'm sitting with her, helping her look at a textbook, reading something, but that's something that the child should be doing, submitting assignments, taking quizzes on their own in Canvas. The teachers in sixth grade spend a lot of time teaching children how to use their Canvas, how to use Canvas, how to navigate the site. And there is a lot of support at school for students who have questions or who need help with Canvas. So very often parents get nervous, like, oh my gosh, what if my kid doesn't know how to use Canvas? What if he has questions? What if? Please note that when they're in school, there are a lot of adults and staff members at school who will help them. Then parents have concerns, what about me? How will I know and figure out how to use Canvas? There are many resources posted on the website to support parents. In addition, my team will be doing an event in September, and it will be a live event. To show you how to use Canvas, you can bring your laptop if you want to, and we will help show you how to use Canvas. We will also do follow-up sessions and one-on-one sessions on helping you use Canvas. Honestly, personally, for me, I download the Canvas app on my phone, and that's how I do it. And it is important, I would say, in sixth grade, this middle school is very different. Students have a lot more grades. In fifth grade, you really have no grades for your child. My child is in fifth grade, and I don't know, she has no grades in English, math, anything. On occasion, I see tests coming home. But in middle school, you're going to see a lot more details. There's a lot more grades and tests, a lot more quizzes, lots more assignments and so forth. And we're going to talk more about homework in a second if you're having that question, but just there's a lot more detail and transparency as responsibilities for students. But we do have a grading policy around that. We'll talk a little bit more later, but just note that Canvas is an amazing way for students to keep organized and help them. That's where they'll be submitting a lot of their homework and sometimes take tests. Rachel?
Sorry, I was answering a question. Okay, so school counselor, yay. We talked about this earlier. Your classroom teacher in elementary is your typical point of contact for questions. That's the main person that your student is with all day. And that looks different in middle school because they are switching sometimes between 6 different teachers. So again, I think we mentioned this earlier. The best course of action is always to start with supporting your student and talking to a teacher. The next thing, if you need help after that, is for you and your student to reach out to the teacher. But if you have, if you've tried those 2 things and you need more support, or it's just a more global question, your middle school counselor will be your point of reference. I think this might be in a different slide, but counselors are organized by alphabet, by the last name of the student. So that sometimes is different from the adult's last name. And so you will have that information. It exists on the website. That they can be a contact for you. A lot of times what we do is we triage. So if you have a question, we can point you in the right direction or help you figure out the right person to talk to. So don't hesitate to reach out to your school counselor. Counselors typically have three main roles that we do, which is academic support, social emotional support, and then college and career readiness. You see a little bit less of college and career readiness at the middle school level, but those are the 3 primary functions of a school counselor. So academic and course planning is a big part of that. So all of this course selection, most of that will be facilitated actually by your middle school counselor, and questions about pathways, courses, and all of that is directed to your counselor. Inundate them yet. You will get presentations first, but they are good liaisons sometimes between teachers and parents. If you have any needs that your counselor is a great person to ask. We support students for such a wide variety of needs, either accessing things in the community, pointing in the right direction. If you have a need for financial assistance, if you have a need for language line or translation, basic needs, food on the weekends, we are your go-to person for any of those things. And then the last part is social and emotional counseling. We are not mental health therapists. And so I just want to make sure that there's no stigma about when your student talks to a counselor. We are a support person. One of the first things I have to tell a student if I call them in my office is, you're not in trouble. We don't deal with discipline. We're never in a position of like I said, having any sort of discipline or trouble for your student. And that goes for any outreach that we might have with you as well. Anytime we're reaching out or working with you, it's from a position of support and partnership. But if your student has social and emotional concerns, please encourage them to work with their school counselor. Please alert us if you have concerns about your student. In the middle schools and the high schools, we have Swedish mental health therapists, and we can make that connection for you as well. You may see this already in your family or community, but there is a rise of anxiety and depression. So we would love to address those concerns as soon as possible and as early as possible. So yeah, please don't wait if you have any needs or concerns. So counseling and mental health, at the middle school level, you have 2 counselors at each building. Again, they're assigned by the student's last name. This will be the same person that they work with through all 3 years. I think Pacific Cascade used to be on a grade level model where they'd go, 6th, 7th, and 8th, but I think everybody is alpha based at this point. Yep. I can't see the presentation, Lorna, but but that's okay. You have the screen up, so I'll speak to it. So for the middle school that you are mapped to, these are your counselors. I'm trying to see where you found this. So it's on the district website, as well as each individual middle school.
Yeah.
Email is the best way to reach your counselor. You can leave a voicemail, but sometimes it's the last thing we check. And I know that's true for everybody on here as well. So email is a good way to start.
So a lot of people are asking what is done in homeroom, and the second step curriculum and some of the information on what is taught in homeroom is listed on this site for second step. But here, each middle school also has that information, but here are the names of the counselors. So just note, it's based on your last name. If your last name is A through L, you'd have this counselor. So for example, my last name is Gilmore. So my daughter's school counselor will be Ali, and if your last name is L through Z, remember again, last name Horacio Valdez would be your child's school counselor. School, 1 second, sorry. I just want to make sure there was a
And
question.
I'll just highlight on that website, you'll see that there's also a number of other resources about financial. So that's a place to visit.
Each school website also has information for the counseling area and the names of counselors over there. And then you were asking about some questions. So I just wanted to see if I could find some of that information. The sites over here. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Next site. Okay.
Okay,
Homework.
so, sorry, just to continue on this.
Okay.
Students can make appointments with counselors. There's always a process in each building for how they can come and sign up to see a counselor. Generally, I know we kept our doors open before school, during lunches. We try to be visible, or immediately after school for a quick something, but otherwise there will be a way for your student to make a student requested appointment. They can also reach out directly on email, which is probably a little less in middle school, and parents can also request to have a meeting. So Lorna spoke to the second step emotional learning curriculum that happens in the homeroom classes that is taught by teachers. They receive the training on the lessons and curriculum for that. And finally, as I think I alluded to before, we have a partnership with Issaquah School District and Swedish Hospital or Swedish Health System to have mental health counselors available in each building. This is an amazing partnership. It allows your student to access mental health therapy at school during the school day at no cost. Privacy rules apply just as they would outside of school. So there's not necessarily conversation between the Swedish counselor and their teachers or anybody else in the building unless your student requests that to happen. Typically, those services are for their short term. It's usually 6 to 8 weeks. And if there's a need to have continued mental health support, the Swedish counselors will help you make referrals and connections to outside therapists. And your school counselor can't recommend a specific therapist outside of school, but we do have a number of resources that we can point you to assist with that process as well.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the next slide. We have a lot of questions in the chat, by the way, and I'm sorry if I'm not able to get to your questions, but we will address them. You can just raise your hand and unmute and turn your camera on and ask a question if needed after the session, if we're unable to address it right now. Sorry about that. Homework. So to me, one of the biggest differences from elementary school and watching my children go through elementary school and then middle school is that there's a lot more after school work in middle school. We're not talking about like hours or anything like that, so please don't stress out. Your child will definitely be able to do clubs and sports and all of that, but expect that your child will have anywhere from 20-30 minutes to, depending on how fast they're going and what classes they're taking, to maybe a little bit more than that. Most often there's homework in math, and so that is very common. And then science, very often they will be finishing up, if they do a lab, for example, they're most likely going to be finishing up a lab report and so forth that they would have in science. And sometimes they might have some other assignment. For example, there's something called CRE, which is claims, reasoning, and evidence, reasoning and evidence, CER, claims, evidence, and reasoning, that they write these paragraphs and summaries in science and sometimes in social studies. So they might have to do that at home. But it's not something that really should be taking your children hours. In general, homework shouldn't be taking hours. It should be taking no more than an hour, most likely about 60 minutes. And so just note that it is also very dependent on the teacher and the class. All of that information is going to be updated in Canvas. So that's one of the beauties of Canvas, is that the teachers usually will post the handout. And so students can access that handout In science and in math, very often, if there's a PowerPoint the teacher is going over, they'll post the PowerPoint on Canvas also. They'll post, upcoming tests and information. So a lot of this information is also posted and available for families and students on Canvas. So this allows the parent to kind of monitor and see, what's going on in class, and have a conversation. So you really shouldn't be maybe a reminder, but just having conversation. Hey, I see you had some math assignments to turn in. Did you have a chance to do it? So it just kind of encourages the conversation between children and parents about the work the child is doing at school. And then if they did not turn it in, or if it's missing, they can also, parents and children can also engage in that kind of question. And then students really ask that, if possible, if there's a disconnect, if there's an assignment missing or something that's posted in Canvas and the child says they did it, but it's not there, to always have the child initiate that conversation. And in Canvas, kids can easily communicate with the teacher using the Canvas inbox. And the teacher will also help the student learn what is the best way to communicate with that teacher. Is it through the Canvas inbox? Is just asking the question before or after school? What is the expectation? So that is one of the things your child will learn in middle school. What is the best way to communicate with the teacher? What is the teacher's rules and procedures, expectations? And all of that information is provided in the class syllabus. That syllabus is posted on Canvas, but the teachers go over the syllabus with the students the first week of school, and that syllabus will also be shared with you as a parent during curriculum night. So look for that syllabus. It's very important, and you should be checking it for each of the classrooms, because each teacher may vary a little bit.
Lorna, can we just expand on the curriculum night a little bit? I know at elementary there's the back to school meet the teacher day, and I think that typically happens before school starts. Curriculum night is an evening event, and it happens generally the second week of school, and you will actually walk your student's schedule going through each of their classes for like 10 minutes, and you'll get to meet the teacher. Every teacher is going to give a quick presentation that will include their syllabus. There a little bit about them. It goes real fast, but you're going to get an opportunity to see and meet each of their teachers, understand how they communicate, give an overview of the class and the expectations. You're not going to be able to talk to them one-on-one because of the pace of the evening, but I just want you to know that that's please look for that, put it on your calendar when it's communicated, and attend. It's actually super fun to see what your students go through during the day. And then your students typically are going to have an assignment the first week of school to bring their syllabus home and have you sign it. So that'll be a time for you to sit down with your student and go over what they understand the class is going to look like with you. The syllabus will be available on Canvas.
And we talk about Canvas a lot, and yes, it is important, but please don't stress out. Once the kids are so tech savvy, they get it so much faster. A parent asked about, are some of the books available in audiobooks? Many of the books that we have, yes, we have an ability for those books to be audiobooks. It depends honestly on the textbook. So that is an option. I know my child had especially a social studies book. She could have it read, parts of it to her. So that's an option. The science book, I don't remember. Also, the kids all have, even right now, Office 365. So most of our students going into school already know how to use PowerPoint and Word, and the teachers will continue reinforcing skills on PowerPoint and Word. Honestly, I don't think most of our students use Excel. I've never seen my child use Excel in any of her assignments, but PowerPoint and Word, for sure, they use it very often. So we talked a lot about the required classes. So again, they have a homeroom, and then they have a total of 7 classes. So homeroom is one of them. Then they have language arts, they have social studies, they'll have a math class, a science class, a PE health class, and then finally, they have this elective class. So really at each school, that's the only big different choice that they will be taking besides the level that they will be having. And so many kids in sixth grade especially will take a year-long elective, such as band, chorus, orchestra. Sometimes they'll take a different one. One thing to note is if your child is in the ELL program, most likely they will be taking that ELL class as the elective if they do not exit out of ELL in fifth grade. So one of the things we talked about, 504s following them, IEPs, health plans. If they're in ELL in fifth grade and they still qualify for ELL in the end of fifth grade, they will also be in an ELL class in sixth grade, except in sixth grade, the ELL class really focuses on academic language. For example, science, they use a lot of terms like inference and so forth. So a child might be completely fluent in, not completely, but might be quite comfortable in English, a regular spoken language, playground, talking to friends, but how are they doing with some of the academic language? And so ELL supports kids on some of that, especially in especially in science and their math classes. Okay, Rachel?
Okay, so this is what you're all, please don't freak out on me. This goes with the elective conversation. There are choices in middle school. You will hear a lot more about this. Our goal tonight is to let you know that choices exist in different areas for classes, and to make sure you know that there are resources available to dig into the nuances behind each decision. So the first one to talk about is science pathway. Most students will follow a pathway in middle school where they start with life science in sixth grade, earth and space science in seventh grade, and then physical science in eighth grade. Our district is a self-select district though. So if you choose a different pathway, that is you and your student's choice, and we will give you information to help make an informed decision. Once you start this pathway for science only, you are on the pathway. So basically the choice is whether or not to skip life science, and there are pros and cons to that decision. Generally, again, most students end up taking science path 1 with life science in sixth grade. Some students have a goal of getting to biology by eighth grade. And if that is a choice that your family makes, you can opt to skip life science, and you will start with earth and space science, then physical science, and then high school biology. I want to reiterate and just assure you, the pathway 1 allows your student to have full selection of science courses in high school. It does not put them behind if they're not taking biology in eighth grade. And it does not hinder any college plans for their future. Most of the content that's covered in life science is a foundation for biology. So if there are any hesitations, again, most students do take pathway 1. There is information on the websites for choices, and this will come out again, but we do look for students to align their math readiness with their science level. So if your student is staying on a normal pathway for math, they should also stay on a normal pathway for science, because the math and the science need to align. There's not an opportunity to go back and retake life science if they get to biology and feel like they're missing some foundational information. So that said, there are students that do skip sixth grade, and they, with a goal of hitting high school biology by eighth grade, that high school class is taught in the middle schools. And then, so there's some pathways on the screen showing that either choice you choose, you have multiple options once you get to high school.
There are a couple things.
The high school, the biology class, it does have high school level homework. So some of these decisions are thinking longer term, about not taking on too much too soon with regards to workload.
And this is one of the topics that they're going to go into a lot more detail at your individual middle school night. Yes, this will be recorded. Make sure you complete a parent is asking who has to drop. Make sure you complete the feedback if you want a copy, but the recording will be on the website, on my webpage. You can email me. But two things I want you to be aware of is the high school biology book is written at the 10th grade level. We have already accelerated this class. My first 5 years teaching, I taught biology And in other school districts and in other states, biology was taught or is taught at the 10th grade level. So the Issaquah School District had already accelerated that. So moving and having kids, some kids take it in the 8th grade level is very accelerated. And when they do take it in 8th grade biology, they can earn high school credit, but they're taking it at the in 8th grade. But the level of reading is much higher. I'm going to share my one bias is that I used to be a 6th grade life science teacher for 12 years. And then I did both life science and earth science.
Lorna, you're breaking up for me, so I hope you're.
Oh, no, is okay. Can you hear me
I heard
now?
you say you're one something. Try
My
that
one
again.
okay, so my one bias is as a life science teacher for 12 years, I would strongly recommend students take that class. It's a very foundational class. It helps them because kids don't have science in elementary school every day. So this really helps them get regular science and really understand science, hypotheses, procedures, how to write a lab, a conclusion, how to do labs. And life science, they also, I love life science and biology. So it's a great foundation because otherwise in 8th grade, they're learning about mitosis and meiosis and cellular respiration and some of that. And some kids are just not academically mature to understand certain concepts. So they learn it, they memorize it, but I don't know if they truly digest it. And so, for a student growth, it's really good to have biology in 9th or 10th grade. And so just keep that in mind. But
I'll just add one caveat or additional information. You can't double up in science in middle school. However, by the time your student gets to be a junior or senior, if they're really science oriented and they figure out that that's their passion, there becomes room in their schedule as 11th or 12th graders to take possibly 2 science classes at that time. So I just want to reiterate, there is no, your student will not be held back if they choose to start with life science in 6th grade from having any and all options in high school for science classes.
okay, and taking life science in 6th grade, you will still meet all the goals for graduation and you still have all the opportunities to take classes and be competitive for colleges, okay? And if your child is really already decided that they're going to go into medical school or something, high level science, that's one thing, but otherwise most kids don't know yet in middle school. It's a great way to really learn about sciences in general and move from there. But I'm going to show you something because this is one of the big questions a lot of parents had, and they're looking for more information. Now, the middle school pathway night really is going to go over this information, but all of you, I would strongly recommend that you'll visit the middle school website on middle school curriculum and pathways to understand more about the options and what you have. And so when you go to the site, the middle school curriculum pathway, you will see that for 5th grade students and families, they can click here to learn more about the middle school pathways. And they have an amazing diagram and some information to help you.
So you pulled up math. I don't want to confuse anybody. Just
sorry, middle school math pathways. And so you will see. So some of you are trying to get a better understanding before you have to register your child in February. So this is a time that you can go to the website and read through it, spend some time reading through it, looking at it. And then if you have any questions, you can talk to a liaison or your child's 5th grade teacher or your child's 5th grade counselor. Those are the people. We're not really, we don't ask that parents contact the middle school counselors at this time. So you have an opportunity, or the school does ask though, wait till after the presentation to ask questions. But many of you want to do your homework before you go to the pathway so that you kind of know what questions to ask or what factors to consider in helping you choose. So what you should do, I would recommend, is do your homework and go to the website and read and see what your options are, because it has great information, because your child can be on different paths, path A, path B, path C. There's also opportunity to move from one path to the other. Students who are in, what is it, Merlin, will most likely be going in Path C because they've already taken 6th grade math in 5th grade. And for Path D, a placement test is required. But if you go to the website, there's very detailed information on the
Lorna, we didn't talk
website.
about math. Do you know you jumped to math and we were talking about science?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so there's a lot, it's because a lot of the questions on the registration form were on that. It is there for 5th grade. Then there's also pathway information, how to choose your pathway. I'm just showing you your options. This is what a lot of parents are looking for, choosing your pathway. How do you, this link is to help you determine and help you decide what you want to know, what you want, more information to help you choose your child's pathway. It is a hard choice. Again, this is self-select. And also there are some different, it shows you if you choose that pathway, what are the classes your child will take in middle school and common pathways in high school. And also there is a Common Core 6 Mastery Assessment link if you're looking at pathway C or pathway D. So again, this is a great website link this is on the school's website under mathematics. You can click on here to help you choose your math class. So this is a question a lot of parents are asking to help them prepare. But just going back, so that's for math. And then for science, here are your options for science. You really, in 6th grade, you're only going to choose between 2 options. Do you want to take life science or do you want your child to take earth science? And so that's the main option you're going to be choosing during course selection. And then for English language arts, you also have 2 options, and your options are if you want your child to be in regular English pathway or regular English or an advanced English. And note, for English, you can change and move to advanced the next year. So you don't have to stay on that course. It's self-select. None of these classes, except if you take biology, will appear on any transcript. This is all to help reinforce and give your child a good foundation. So normally what we recommend is, make sure your child has a great foundation for this information, because once they get to high school, you want them to do well. And then also in high school, they have the ability to double up in certain classes in math and in science, especially. Rachel, would you agree with that?
I'm going to double down on a couple of things because I went down the science pathway and then you kind of expanded on all the options. So the takeaways from this conversation are math and science are linear pathways. When you're on the pathway, you continue forward on those pathways. So making that thoughtful decision in 6th grade is important. Your students often don't necessarily feel super challenged in middle school with math if they have an aptitude for that. But it can catch up with them in high school if they have accelerated too quickly. So really be conscientious if you're choosing to accelerate your student about, the next 7 years, what that looks like for your student. The second thing I just want to emphasize is if you accelerate in math or science, if you are taking algebra, biology, or geometry, those are high school level courses and they are transcribed onto your high school transcript. There will become options if your student isn't happy with their grade, but those can have implications later on. So if your student reaches a high school level class in middle school, that does become part of their high school record. If you choose to do the, I can't remember, what do they call it in middle school? What were you saying about the ELA? Is it honors?
Advanced, I think.
Advanced, they call it advanced. Sorry, I didn't want to use the wrong word and I just did. So if it's advanced or regular language arts, that again, that can change from year to year and it has no impact on, it's not a linear decision. So your student is welcome to try one or the other based on how they're feeling. And if it was too much or too little, they can make a different choice for the next year.
Wonderful. So just note, this is just a little blurb on choosing courses. This is why you're going to be going to your sixth grade, your transition night event at your middle school. But very often parents would tell me that they went to the event, they got so much information and they were overwhelmed. And that's why I wanted to provide you with where to get some information on your own so that you can then do some research. You can go into this meeting more knowledgeable. You can ask questions of the presenters, usually where there'll be math and science teachers also. And so you can feel better prepared to register. You will also be doing your course selection process between, I believe it's February 6th through the 28th. So you have time, but don't stress out, okay? And if you have questions and you're unsure, there are many other parents in the district that you can ask for help and just ideas on what worked for their children. But you can also ask your fifth grade teacher is a great resource. Your fifth grade counselor is a great resource. The family partnership liaison at your school is a great resource. You can always email me and we can talk about different options for you. So so this site, if you go to academics, just showing you where this link lives. So under academics, middle school and curriculum pathways, somebody asked me where is the curriculum, and the curriculum would also be over here. So you can go to sixth grade, look at math, science, and so forth. And you can see what the curriculum is for life science and look at it as compared to earth science for what your child is doing. So all of that information is posted over here on the website, and that just including this link, and that just kind of will give you a foundation and help you get ready and feel more prepared as you're registering your class, enrolling your class, or doing the course selection in February. Okay, so next one.
Yeah, I know. So I know we have a lot to get through and not a ton of time left. So there's some questions about like have to make these decisions before the middle school presentations are happening. So this is what I'm going to share with you. You should receive information to make informed decision. Your fifth grade teachers should be directed to help answer questions for you about what might be appropriate for math or science for your student, but there will be other tools to help inform that decision. Like the state testing scores can help inform decisions. At the end of the day, there is an opportunity to make corrections if there is information that you find out later that really changes your mind. However, the classes are built based on requests. So just give it your best effort. Sixth grade is you're not going to go wrong. So there's opportunities to accelerate if you don't choose to accelerate in the future. And like I said, you can change your advanced or non-advanced over time. So just make your best decision. There is no wrong decision.
Also, this was just a sneak peek as to what they're going to be teaching. My main thing is go and look at the website between now and the information night so that you can ask questions. Biology is by default that most kids will take in ninth grade. Yes.
Correct.
So if your child, your pathways, if your child, fifth grade child, okay, so your elementary schools have sent out information, but my last slide talks about the events for different middle schools coming up. So just
I'm going to give you just anecdotally, I mentioned I have 3 children. They have all done completely different pathways and they have all done the right thing for them, and they have all accessed the opportunities in high school that they want to access. So lots of options.
So we're going to move a little bit to testing and grading. In middle school, teachers are now going to start giving you letter grades. There's no more 1, 2, 3, 4s. A, B, C, Ds are all considered passing grades. F is failing. We do not rank students at all. You will get, at the end of the school grading period, you'll get a percentage of the grade your child has. So it's the 92%, 95%, 84%, 83%. You'll be able to see the percentage of the score of your child has for their tests and grades. One of the most amazing things about middle school is teachers allow retakes for tests because it's always about mastery of understanding. So teach students, it's a learning process. So if they got dinged and they don't know how to take a test, there is ways to help them improve. That's part of what really middle school is all about. Also with homework, teachers will give you extra time as needed, and help you with that. And so because it is for practice to get better, so it's always in consideration that students are learning and students are trying to get better. So there are opportunities for mastery and redo to improve their grades. So all of that information will be presented in the teacher's syllabus. So, sometimes people are afraid like, oh my gosh, my child might not be able to take these tests and do well. That's part of middle school curriculum, a middle school experience to help your child with this. Students sometimes might have group projects, or they'll have individual projects that they might be assigned. And just like in elementary school, there are SBA tests in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And by the way, as they present this for classroom placement, or sorry, the pathways and how to choose pathways, they might most likely recommend that you look at your child's SBA or your iReady scores to help you decide what pathway to choose. They'll also ask you probably to look at your iReady scores or SBA scores in reading, because that really will help you even in science. Because remember, science, as I said, is the 9th grade science book is at the 8th grade science book. If they take biology, if they take biology in 8th grade, that book is written at a 10th grade level. And remember, colleges don't see any of the middle school grades unless, of course, they are taking a foreign language class in 8th grade, which is not part of the 6th grade process, or they're taking a biology, or if they're taking a geometry or a high school level class in 8th grade. So there are some classes kids might take in 8th grade that would be part of the high school transcript. But that's not, I wouldn't worry about that right now in 6th grade. And again, attendance matters. We talked about that. So we just try to remind that, because sometimes kids are not really used to that. They don't have the stamina. So just try to encourage your kids to attend every single day and be on time to class. MLL class is students who are in the MLL program. They will continue on into the MLL program, and they have a different class for that. And it focuses, as we said, on academic language. We have a health room in the schools. The health room has usually a health room professional as well as a nurse. Sometimes a nurse is a part-time or full-time. If your child has any health issues, please make sure you're in communication with that nurse, especially if they have allergies that are life-threatening and have an EpiPen, diabetes, asthma, seizure disorders, or any condition that might impact school performance. That's including hearing and vision, so that we are just better prepared, because sometimes classrooms have a microphone, and so students can have a device to help them better hear what the teacher is saying if they have any kind of hearing disorders. So the school is really there to protect and promote education and the health and well-being of the students. And so just make sure that if there's any kind of concerns, reach out to the school nurse. This is a big one. So if your child is planning on playing sports next year, make sure that you, between now and July, are having your child do a sports physical. Okay. And the sports physical, if you take your child to a doctor, if you have the yearly appointment in the next couple months, that would be a great way to do it. But the sports physical has to be dated prior, has to be for next year's sports physical, has to be after January 1st, 2023. So this month. So if you had a physical last month, or most likely you haven't done a sports physical, but it's a specific form that the healthcare provider has to complete, and you have to submit it in something called final forms. And final forms, you have to do a lot of paperwork in final forms, and that is something that you will be asked to complete in August, September, before your child can participate in sports. So there are many opportunities for sports, but just note that a sports physical is necessary for that. In 6th grade, there are no required vaccinations, but in 7th grade, there will be, and that'll be the Tdap, and that has to be done prior to the first day of school. ASB is the Associated Student Body, and it's a group of students at each school who contribute to the funds. Pretty much all students contribute to ASB. You're going to hear this word very often. That's the only reason I put it in this presentation. Just note that there's something called an ASB card, and your child should buy an ASB card, because if they have an ASB card, then they can participate in clubs and sports. And ASB cards cost $35. And if they can't afford an ASB card, scholarships are available for students. You'll have an opportunity to buy an ASB card and pay. It's on the pay fees and fines. It's one of the steps of EVP in August. EVP is an online enrollment verification process that all kids have to go through. All students have to complete, parents complete in the end of August, but you have an opportunity to pay for your ASB card during that time. So make sure that you just keep it in mind, because sometimes parents don't know what ASB cards are, but it's really something that you want your child to have if they're going to be participating in clubs and sports especially. Besides the ASB card, there's also a sports fee, which is about $50 for junior varsity, and $20 for intramural sports. Most sixth graders will end up in intramural sports. Sometimes if they're in certain sports, they might qualify, or they might, compete and play, and then they might qualify for varsity sports. But in general, it's usually intramural sports that students are joining. There is a PE uniform, so your child will be expected to buy and use a PE uniform. And that's another thing that they will be paying during the online fees at the school. And that's one of the portals that they have. Yearbook is another thing. It's a big thing at the end of the school year. Students sign each other's yearbooks. So consider getting a yearbook, because it becomes a thing in middle and high school especially. And very often there is a science or a lab fee. If your child is learning an instrument, depending on the instrument, they might be able to do an instrument rental for band or orchestra. And if there's any financial aid assistance needed, they can do that. And you can pay for a lot of these fees during EVP, but you can also go to the school at the end of August and pay for any fees as needed. And very often students may do that. It depends. On pre-COVID years, it was done before school started. And then because of COVID, procedures changed a little bit. So next year, the procedure may or may not be the same. So just know that that can be done in late August, potentially early September. Clubs and after school, what a lot of you are waiting for. It's one of the most amazing things about schools is that they have so many different clubs that is available for them. But in addition to the clubs being available, one of the things is that for the clubs, there is an after-school bus that students can take. So sometimes students, when they stay after school, they, how are they going to get home? That's always a limiting factor for the ability to participate in clubs. And so there is an after-school after-school bus for them. To find out what kind of clubs are available at the school, even now, you can go to Student Life, look under activities, and under activities, it will list the different clubs. So all the schools' websites look the same, so you can visit your child's school's website. Notice that this school has chess, green club, Rubik cube club, origami. Each school's club is slightly different. It depends on student interest. In addition, students are encouraged to form their own club if they don't see the club that they are interested in listed over here. I know my child formed a writing club because she was really interested in writing and her school didn't have one. The school already has one, but she ended up starting one at her school. So the students can form a new club by talking to the advisors and the school. There's a process, but here's one of the different options. Now, if they stay after school, they can then take the activity bus. But note, these clubs don't meet every day. So it's certain days of the week that they will meet. And then after the club is done, students will then take an activity school bus, and the school website will post the activity school bus route. So you'll see this is the school bus information website. I showed it to you earlier, but it includes activity school routes. And the activity school bus is also taken by students who are in sports. So if your child is in a sport, then they will most likely be taking the after school bus also after practices. But if it's a game, especially a home game, sorry, a away game, like my daughter was in softball and she had games at Maywood or Beaver Lake, in which case I would go watch the game and then take her home afterwards. And so then I would go and pick her up from those away games because there was no bus sometimes bringing them for certain games. Someone asked, what is varsity? So varsity is basically the highest skilled students. So intramural, all kids can, to do intramural, there's no tryouts or anything like that. Varsity is the most highest skilled kids in that middle school group in that sport. And then junior varsity is skilled students who are not as skilled in that. And so what they do is they try out, and based on how they do during the tryouts, they're either placed in varsity, junior varsity, or they might, they're new. So for example, my daughter was brand new in softball. And so she was actually just in a JV softball. There's a smaller group, but it depends on your level is where they will place you for the sport. But there are different sports offer different seasons. And it's a $50 fee or $20 fee, depending on what it is. And there's an after school bus. We really encourage kids to join a sports or a club because that's one of the great ways of meeting other students at school. So
there's a really strong connection between students having feeling connected to their school with activities and socially with academic success. So I want to reiterate that verbally. Encourage your student to try at least one activity if it fits with your schedule and your family's needs, and sample different things. Middle school is a great time to sample.
And as I said earlier, there's a physical evaluation that needs to be done, and the students need to do a sports registration before the sports begins, okay? So make sure, students don't just show up the day of tryouts. They really should have completed the final forms, the forms to participate in the sports prior to joining or going and participating in that activity. Also, practices are held only on Monday through Thursday. So keep that in mind. Friday, there's no practice.
And all the clubs and athletics don't start until after school. The school year is well underway, typically like the third week of school. So there's no action needed until after school starts.
Perfect. And so advice on previous parents, understand that middle school is a transition year. Students are learning how to be organized, develop good studying skills and personal skills. And honestly, my advice for you as a parent is you are their coach, you're the advisor. So in sixth grade, it was important for me to sit with my daughter to help her figure out how to organize her time and her day. Like, when should you be working on your homework? What would be the best for you to complete this assignment? This is a longer assignment. How many days would you need? So really helping your child be organized, having strategies. Sometimes kids have a lot of papers in their backpacks. How do you help them keep the backpacks clean? What's in their locker? Now kids don't have as much stuff in their lockers because they carry everything in their backpack. But what do you put in your locker? What do you carry in your backpack? What's your classroom behavior going to be like? How do you stay focused? Because it's a very short class. How do you make sure that you're making the most out of your time? So time management, organizational skills. So those are the kinds of things to have conversations with them in the summer to help them get ready, and just letting them know that there's going to be a lot more independence expected for them in middle school. And how can we, do you have that skills? How can I support you? And being mindful and kind of having conversations with them in September and October for that. In middle school, we used to do locker planners a lot more. I'm not quite sure, honestly, how much planners are used. since the use of Canvas is so much more now. So that will depend on your teacher and how they're using planners at your middle school. Yeah, and then just remember that there's no parent-teacher conference. So have conversations first with your child, encourage your child to talk to the teacher, and then you can email the teacher or the counselor about if you have any questions and such. Here's one of the questions that a lot of you had: when is your event? So you should already have received some kind of communication from your elementary school or your middle school with that information. My child will be going to IMS, and I know I've already received an email with all of these dates in it. So there are a lot of dates in here. If you complete your the sign-in form or the feedback form, I will be sending you this handout, and then you will be able to get this handout, these dates, which is on the website. And then finally, that really brings us to the end of our presentation. Here's a QR code if you have a phone to sign in. But at this point, honestly, you are welcome to ask me questions, because I know that there were many questions that I was not able to get to while I was doing my presentation.
Lorna, someone asked, it says the feedback link does not have Cascade Ridge Elementary. Cascade Trails is a different elementary school than Cascade Ridge, so. I'm not-
Sorry, if that's the case, select another school for now. I apologize, or just click on new to the school, or maybe put that information in the comments. Okay, sorry about that. So the soccer one, what does is there soccer? All of the sports are the same at all the schools. So because they compete with each other, it's the same sport at every single school. So don't think that this is only for Cougar Mountain. All the schools offer the same sport. So there is no boys soccer, because boys at that time are doing basketball. It's also seasonal. So they have that. But right now they don't have that. And so you can always talk to the school about what their participation might look like.
And cross country and track are super popular sports in middle school. They're no cut. There's hundreds of kids that come out. They're very social. You do not have to be a strong runner, but if your students like kind of interested in trying a sport, but they don't know which one, cross country is an awesome way to start middle school.
I totally agree. My daughter did cross country, and then they did what is it, track in the spring.
Very, very social, very fun,
Very social.
light on the competitiveness.
Yeah. For those from Cascade Ridge, click on the Cascade Trails, because that is the school it's meant to be for.
Oh, did I make a typo?
Trails is listed underneath it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So those from Cascade Ridge, just click on Cascade Trails, and that will work.
Someone asked me about their middle schools have not sent out any forms. You will get information when you go to this night, your transition night event at your middle school. And at that time, they will give you some information and show you the links so that you can do your course selection process and give you some directions for that.
And I know that the schools are furiously scheduling these because there was kind of a district change in the timeline. So if your school isn't published, it will be published soon.
So the question was, are freshmen able to try out for varsity team? And the answer is yes. But if there are
Sixth
two
grade.
kids with
Sixth graders.
the question was freshmen, but so in high school, yeah, freshmen could, but in general, they usually give really try to have the 8th graders or the upperclassmen be on those varsity teams, because then the 6th graders, the freshmen, the younger kids would have an opportunity later on through the course of their school year. Do we need to sign up to attend a middle school night? Not at all. If you attend this specific middle school, you are welcome to attend the event. You will be probably sent a direct Zoom link if it's on Zoom. For example, for a couple schools, the event is on Zoom, but like Maywood Middle School, it's a live event. IMS, it's a live event. BLMS, it's a live event. So information will be given to you And yes, I just answered that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask the question at this time. But we are done with the official presentation. So at this time, I'm able to